What's the one word that sums up when you decided to be a music educator? Can you really sit in that memory with me for just a moment? I want you to imagine where you were, who you were with, what it sounded like, what it looked like. You can even close your eyes if that helps you to really sit in that memory. Just shout it out.
Jesus.
Jesus. Joy. Exciting? Exciting? Passion. Quiet. I heard crazy also earlier. Scary. For me, when I think about the moment when I decided to be a music educator, and as you were sitting in that moment, I went back to that moment as well, I actually think of the word electricity. This electric feeling that I now know is just a joyful feeling, because I felt it in multiple different places, but I would say it feels like electricity. So if you don't mind, I want to take you back to my moment when I decided to be a music educator. Let's go all the way back to May of 2010. I was in Venezuela on a study abroad trip. I had just graduated from my undergraduate degree at James Madison University, go Dukes, and I was studying El Sistema and also volunteering and teaching. It is a social change through music program that was developed in Venezuela, the idea being that we can use music as a vehicle to change our communities. In 2010 in Venezuela, when I was on that study abroad trip, we were learning about the administrative and operational things of the program, all different regions of Venezuela. And I was teaching, rehearsing, working with the students. In fact, that's actually a picture of baby teacher Ashley way back in 2010 when I was leading one of those rehearsals. And it may have been this rehearsal or another, but I remember that electric feeling so clearly. It was something about working with kids and young people and making music with them, but also helping them figure out stuff that led me to have this electricity. But it was not part of the plan to be a music teacher, right? I'm goal-oriented, I had my plan, so I ignored it. But when I was in Venezuela for that month, I could not ignore that electricity that I felt every day that I got to be with those students, with those communities. And so I decided, I'm gonna go ahead and be a music teacher. And in the fall of 2010, that's where I went. I started teaching here in the DMV. I taught both in DC, I taught in Northern Virginia. Nobody was more excited than me to be a music teacher because I just knew I was going to get to sit in that electricity every single day. I couldn't wait to share the joy of music making with my kids. However, while I was super excited, enthusiastic, full of joy, on a good day, I would say my students maybe were bored, apathetic, disinterested, but on a bad day, I would say my classroom felt like it was on fire. I just could not get my students to listen to what I had to say. I couldn't get them to stop fighting with each other, with me. I remember actually a particular day with one of my 5th grade groups that rocked me, and I still think about this core memory. Everything was going wrong, and it had been going wrong, right? I was working so hard to figure out how to get my students to be as enthusiastic as I was, right? So what does a goal-oriented overachiever do? Well, they have a plan and they execute the plan. So I was coming to school early every single day to set up my classroom for whatever cool thing Google had told me was the thing to get kids excited. I was staying late after school every day talking to teachers, trying to figure out what I could be doing. I read every single book on classroom management and engagement. I was taking courses, observing my mentor teacher, doing all of the things. And in this day, when literally everything was going wrong, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next. I realized I had a choice. I could continue to do what I was doing, like a hamster on the wheel, which was clearly not working. So I realized that I didn't have anything to lose to try something different. So that's what I did. I started asking my students questions like, well, what do you do for fun? And what's your family like? What do you do at home? What do you like to learn? What kind of music do you enjoy? I asked them some hard questions too. I asked them questions like, how can I be a better teacher for you? You have to have thick skin to ask young kids questions like that. But I realized that I was more committed to their success than my ego, so I leaned in, even when it felt uncomfortable, even when what they were suggesting I knew would be off the wall and maybe not work. But learning is messy, and it's supposed to be, so I leaned into the messiness. For me, the key I found, it wasn't in all of the wonderful music techniques that I knew I could teach. The key really was when I was able to understand my students at a level that allowed me to make the learning effective to them by connecting to who they were, the pieces of who they were. Today, like I shared with you, I get to do this wonderful work, but I have not forgotten where I started. I haven't forgotten that electricity and that joy that I actually feel right now every time I get the ability to share, but really to connect with other people, to really understand how we can shift the trajectory of what music has been to what we know that it can be, something that really allows it to be a vehicle for all of our learners. We don't have to chase after this joy, right? This feeling of electricity. I didn't need to chase it. But instead, when I use a culturally responsive approach to teaching and learning, which requires me to slow down, not be so goal-oriented and focus on the plan, but really to lean into the people, the learners I'm working with, that's where I was able to find that joy again after the classroom on fire period of my teaching career, but also allow my students to have joy in the work that we were doing together.